This hearing makes one thing abundantly clear. The fiscal state of our nation is definitely out of control. The United States fiscal future is spiraling under a ballooning national debt fueled by Washington's chronic overspending. Our gross federal debt stands now at $36.8 trillion, 121% of our GDP, and is projected by the Congressional Budget Office to reach nearly $60 trillion by 2035, if this country actually makes it financially to 2035. So we need to address this crisis now. To put that into perspective, imagine the United States as a medium to small business. Let's call it Swamp Incorporated. Right now, Swamp Incorporated carries more than $36 million in debt. This year, it expects to bring in $5 million in revenue, but plans to spend $7 million, running a $2 million deficit. And nearly $1 million of that $7 million in spending goes just to interest payments. Money that provides no new services, no investment, no return, just the cost of prior borrowing. Year after year, Swamp Incorporated adds to its debt just to keep its doors open. If you were a banker, would you lend more money to that company? If this were a real business, no bank would keep lending and no investor would buy its bonds. They could not handle the risk. Yet this is how our federal government is operating today. Unless we change course, Americans will face severe consequences in the very near future. Despite claims to the contrary, our debt crisis stems primarily from unchecked spending by Congress, not a lack of revenue. In fact, revenues are already above historic averages, and without serious spending reform, we face two damaging options: print more money, which fueled the Biden-Harris inflation surge, or borrow more, which raises interest rates and slows growth. Alarmingly, over the next decade, and again, if we make it that far, we'll spend another $14 trillion just to service that debt, money that delivers no public benefit. In just 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, interest payments have surged by $600 billion, a 170% increase, as Treasury yields climb to almost 5% under President Biden, the highest since before the Great Recession. This trajectory is unsustainable. Global markets will not finance U.S. deficits indefinitely, and when confidence in our ability to repay fades, we risk a true sovereign debt crisis, collapsed pensions, failing banks, and shuttered federal programs. Thankfully, President Trump's fiscal year 2026 budget offers a path forward. It proposes an almost 23% cut in non-defense discretionary spending. That's a $163 billion reduction from FY25 levels. As a member of both the House Budget and the Appropriations Committees, I plan to support this plan and am committed to restoring fiscal sanity so future generations aren't crushed with more debt by Washington's reckless spending. So, Dr. Rao, Dr. Winfrey, and Mr. Schneider, would you agree that the national debt is driven primarily by out-of-control spending?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So what you're saying is Congress has an opium addiction, and that they are addicted to OPM, that's other people's money, tax dollars. Dr. Winfrey, Medicaid was designed as a safety net for our most vulnerable populations. That's low-income folks with children, pregnant women, the elderly, and individuals with disabilities. Yet in recent years, we've seen a rapid expansion of Medicaid to include millions of able-bodied working-age adults without dependents who don't work. Do you believe this expansion is straining the program and diverting resources away from those who it was originally intended to serve?
Yes, it is significantly diverting resources away from those who it is intended to serve. And it all comes back to the financing nature of the program. States get $9 federal dollars for every one state dollar that they spend on the expansion population. This is the able-bodied childless adults, and $1.33 for every dollar that they spend on the vulnerable population. These are pregnant moms, kids, the disabled.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider, in 2023, the U.S. credit rating was downgraded by Fitch during the Biden administration due to concerns about our fiscal trajectory. You mentioned that, I believe, in your statement. What does that say about investors' confidence in our country's ability to repay its debt?
The benefit for the U.S. is that other markets aren't nearly as good, so there's not as many places for the money to go. But investors are generally very concerned that we continually choose a fiscal outlook of basically 7% of GDP deficits in perpetuity. So I think the way that will ultimately manifest is as we issue more debt, you will see rising term premium investors demanding more compensation to buy U.S. debt. It means higher interest rates that crowds out private investment, and that means slower growth.
So what you're saying, investors are not fooled.
No, not at all.
All right, thank you. Dr. Winfrey, what are the economic implications if investors lose confidence in our ability to service the national debt?
It will become incredibly difficult to borrow in the private sector and in the public sector, and interest rates will go up, so it'll become much more difficult to start a small business. It'll be much more difficult to afford credit card payments. It'll be much more difficult to afford a new house or a car.
Do you believe there's still time to change course and avoid these cataclysmic economic consequences?
I do, but it requires a balanced approach where we increase the level of growth in the economy, so we grow the economy as much as we can, while we bring down the spending trajectory of the programs that consistently grow more than GDP.